This podcast is produced by the Harwood Productions Podcast Network. To learn more about the network and to find more of our shows, visit us online at www.harwoodpodcast.com.
Hi, I'm Cindy Harris. In this episode, I'm going to share with you my cookies and cream brownies. I've taken a really fudgy brownie, mixed in some crushed Oreo cookies, and then topped it with a really great cream cheese topping that I've marbled together. Now, whenever I'm making brownies, I like to put a parchment sleeve in the pan. It helps to get the brownies out. So let me show you how I do that. For this recipe, I'm using a 9 by 9 inch square pan. I'm going to give it a little spritz with some baking spray. Then I have a piece of parchment that I've cut. It's about the width of the pan. I'm going to place it in there, kind of bend the edges over just a little bit, and then just give one last little spritz. Now we're going to make our cream cheese layer for these brownies, and I'm going to use 8 ounces of cream cheese. Now here in the States we have what's called Philadelphia cream cheese, and Anna in Portugal was telling me that there they just call it Philadelphia. You could also substitute mascarpone cheese if that's all you can find, but you do want to start with 8 ounces, and I'm going to put this in a small bowl. To that I'm going to add 1/4 cup of sugar, 1 egg, and 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now, if you can't find vanilla extract in your country and you can find vanilla beans, what you would do is take 1/2 of a vanilla bean and scrape the seeds out and put that in here. The ratio is, if I say 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, you could use 1 whole vanilla bean. But for this, I'm using just 1/2 teaspoon, so then you just use 1/2 of a vanilla bean. Now normally I use my KitchenAid for everything, but because this is a small amount, I'm going to use my hand mixer, and I'm going to start it on a low speed, and I'm going to mix this cream cheese mixture together till it's nice and smooth. Now this mixture is pretty smooth, so I'm going to go ahead and just set this to the side. Now we're going to start with the chocolate part of our brownies. Now to do that, for the cookies and cream part, these are the cookies, that's the cream. So what I'm going to use are 12 what we call Oreo cookies. Oreos are a chocolate sandwich cookie, and I know they're called all kinds of different things in other places, but this is the kind of cookie that you want to use for this brownie. Now I need to take 12 of these cookies. I'm putting them in a little resealable bag here, and I need to crush these up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to seal this except for about the last inch or so. That way a little bit of air can come out. And I'm going to take my rolling pin and I'm just going to mash these up. Now once the cookies start to get pretty well mashed, then I'm actually going to use the rolling pin as it's made to be used. And I'm going to grind these up even finer. Now another thing that's great about these brownies is we don't need to use the mixer for this part. The rest of it can be made just in a bowl. I'm going to take my cookie crumbs, put them right in here. Then I'm going to add 1/2 cup of melted butter, 1/2 cup of sugar, 1/2 cup of packed brown sugar, and 1/2 cup of cocoa powder. Now I'm going to mix these together with my spatula. Now at this point it's going to look very kind of dry like this, which is okay, but I do want to make sure that I get that brown sugar and those cookie crumbs mixed in with our other ingredients. It's going to almost look like wet sand at this point. Now I'm going to add 2 eggs, and I want to take a moment and mix those in really well. Now I'm going to add my flour. I'm just using all-purpose flour. I'm going to dip my measuring cup in, level it with my knife, and add 1/2 of a cup to my bowl. Now we want just a little bit of lift in these brownies. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Now we're going to mix the flour and baking powder in. You can see this is very fudgy, which means very yummy. But I do want to take the time at this point, make sure I get those pockets of flour up. And you can see right in here where I have one, they show up really easily with this dark chocolate batter. But do make sure to get that all mixed in. And then one last ingredient, a teaspoon of vanilla. And we'll mix that in. Now I'm going to take my super thick and super delicious. If you haven't tried a taste of it now, do. It's brownies, but then you have those crushed up cookie crumbs in it. It's really good. I'm going to take this and I'm going to pour it all into my pan that I prepared. Now you can see this brownie batter is so thick that it doesn't move, so I need to take my spatula and I need to move that batter all the way to all 4 corners to every side of this pan. This is really important. We want a solid layer of this brownie mixture. Now I'm going to take my cream cheese and I'm going to spoon that on top of the brownie. Now I'm going to use my little spatula here and I'm going to spread this out just like I did the brownies. Because what we're going to do now is I'm just going to take a regular dinner knife and I'm going to take it and I'm going to have the blade flat like this and I'm just going to kind of marble this brownie and the cream cheese together. Now what you're seeing here is a little bit of the chocolate and a little bit of the cream getting mixed together. Just like this. Now what's great about this technique is it doesn't look like much from up top, but when you cut into it, it's going to have all these streaks of chocolate and cream. It'll be really good. Now what's going to happen in the oven is that brownie mixture, the brownie and cookie, is going to kind of puff up and kind of envelop that cream cheese mixture. And that takes about 25 minutes in the oven. Now look at how great these rose and the marbling, isn't that great? But we do want to take a toothpick and pop it in the center. Now this came out nice and clear. Today this ended up taking about 35 minutes. So don't be surprised if it takes, maybe anywhere between 25 to 35 minutes. One of the things that I look for is, do you see back here? This is actually starting to pull away from the side of the pan. I always look for that when I'm making bar cookies or brownies because that tells me that they are cooked all the way through. But I always like to double check by using the toothpick. Now I'm going to need to leave these brownies on the cooling rack in the pan, and these are going to need to cool for at least 1 hour. So now I'm going to take the brownies out of the pan. So I'm going to use my little dinner knife again, and I'm going to run it just along the 2 edges where there's no parchment. Then I'm going to lift it off the cooling rack, and I'm going to grab onto the sleeves here, and I'm just going to very carefully pop that right out onto the cooling rack. And you can see, look, nothing in the pan, which is great. Now I'm going to let these sit on the cooling rack for a few more minutes and then we can cut them up. Now I wanted to show you I've taken a square out of the brownies and it's such a fudgy brownie with that great cream cheese topping. This really is a good cookies and cream brownie. Now because these brownies have our cream cheese in them, they'll need to be refrigerated. Now there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can go ahead and cut them up and then wrap them individually and put them in the refrigerator. You can put this back in the pan and cover it with plastic or foil and put it in the refrigerator. And also, if you wanted to freeze these, what you could do is, again, cut them up in whatever shapes you want, wrap them in plastic, and then put them in the freezer. I know that these are great frozen, and if you wanted to have one defrosted, then you could just take it out for about 10 or 15 minutes and then have it, but they hold up really well if you want to freeze them. Now, if you'd like to give these cookies and cream brownies a try at home, just go to our website and visit the cookie jar show notes, and I'll have the recipe there for you. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email. I'll see you next time.